So today I wanted to respond to your comments about posting kids on social media because it was pretty unanimous, I would say. There were like a couple little comments that it was sort of like situational things like, oh, this could potentially be acceptable, but I think it has to be done in the right way, me personally. So anyway, if you didn't see that video, I'll link it somewhere. But basically I was just talking about posting kids on social media, whether it's someone's private Facebook or on a public platform, or if it's the extreme, like their own channel or something, like making that child a personality, basically, or monetizing them. I focused a little bit more on, privately posting, or ostensibly what seems like private, like parents posting their kids on social media, not really recognizing that, there is no privacy anymore. It's obviously a huge topic. A lot of you guys brought up the example that there are a lot of predators out there and you don't necessarily know who it is, or who, you might think that you're posting photos of your grandkids to your private Facebook, but I know for one that my mom gets random friend requests all the time, and sometimes she thinks she knows somebody and just accepts it. You know what I mean? You don't know exactly who everybody is. Or even if you do, even if you went to high school with this person, you don't know what they're like now. You know what I mean? They could be saving all that shit to their desktop and nasty. So you gotta be careful. You gotta be really careful about it. For instance, I don't know if people know this. I was watching an interview recently with this former hacker and a computer hacker. And he was basically saying that, at the end of his interview, he was summing it up to basically say, privacy doesn't exist anymore. With the advent of the internet, social media, smartphones, something that people don't recognize. And if you have a, I don't know about the other Samsungs and shit, but if you have an iPhone, you take a photo, there's a geolocation attached to that photo. So one of the features on your photo albums is kind of a map to see where you were when you took this photo. Well, that geolocation is connected to that photo. It's embedded in the code of the image. So when you post it somewhere, fucking hackers can find out where it is, which is why, I don't know if you guys remember this, it's a little while ago, but when Kylie Jenner was all over Snapchat and she was tagging her location and super dangerous. I'm pretty sure she had an incident. I can't remember. I know that has happened with celebrities, but wow, I just lost my train of thought. But basically, your location it's not private anymore. It just isn't. Even if you think that it is, it's not. And people have so much, hackers have so much access to your location, your banking information, all this shit. One of the examples that I used was, how many times have you seen maybe an older relative or family friend whose Facebook gets hacked because they clicked on the wrong thing? You know what I mean? I know it's happened a million times to people that I know. I don't know, part of this is gonna sound really condescending, but I think the people who are doing it, and once again, to reiterate, I don't think that it's comes from a malicious place most of the time, the majority of the time. Posting kids on the internet, but the people who are doing it without really recognizing those things, the lack of safety and just lack of privacy in general, and lack of respect for that person's privacy, I think, it are people who either grew up with things like MySpace and Facebook. So they're just some people who grew up with it. This is a portion, I believe, who don't recognize, who grew up putting their shit on MySpace, putting their shit on Facebook, and nothing ever happened, or hasn't so far. So they don't see the dangers of putting their kids on it, because they were basically kids when they started posting themselves on it, I think that's one portion. I think the other is older people, relatives, grandparents probably, or parents who are kind of new to, I feel like Facebook is still kind of new to the older generation, because it started off only open to school, to colleges, then they opened it up to if you were in high school, it had to be a school thing, and then it kind of just grew and opened up to everybody. So I think it's kind of I don't want this to sound condescending, but older people who this is like a new thing. It's a new way to connect. It's cool. Like you can connect with all of these people from all over the place. And I think it's kind of exciting. And it's like the idea of this like digital sort of photo album, you know, which is like what it was supposed to be. But I think a lot of us, and I think everybody is guilty of this, not really knowing like the effects of it. And I think it's really just dangerous and ignorant for us to think that we have a handle on something like this without like really knowing what the effects of it on our mental health are, on our privacy, on our own, like just our family security, like all of those things. Now, one of the comments that someone left was, I can't remember the exact example, but it was, they were agreeing about like just posting, like especially on public platforms, your children. But they brought up something that like they thought was really helpful was, I believe, videos of a mother teaching her son, her young son, how to sign because he's deaf. And I was like, okay, I understand that. Like I can see like something from an educational standpoint because like think back to when you were a kid watching like kids programming on television, right? Like there were things that were meant to be educational and it was like by kids for kids or whatever. What station was that? I can't remember. It doesn't matter. But there are absolutely benefits to that. I think where it becomes dangerous is when it's not monitored. Like it's the same thing with like child stars. When that kid, when their privacy is stripped away, when they become like too independent and they sort of become like this personality that is just like free reign for people, right? That's where it becomes really dangerous. So as soon as a kid on the internet, like somebody else brought up the example of like parents making a private or like a separate Instagram for their kid just to post photos of their kid. And if it's public, that's insane to me. Absolutely insane. It's like the people who like make like, no offense, and this isn't really the same thing, obviously, but when people make like a separate Instagram for like their dog, no judgment, a little bit of judgment, but it's fine. But like way more terrifying because it's a child, it's a person, it's a tiny little person. Once again, geolocations are like, you don't know like what, like who's around you or who's going to recognize like what the background of the photo is. There's creeps out there, man. It's creeps. Think about all of the people, all the stories that you've heard about like famous people, like internet celebrities who've been swatted or people who's just showing up at their house because they find out like where these people live. It's scary. But like fucked up shit happens on the internet, and man, you gotta have like protections in place. Oh, another comment was someone saying that like, I can't remember who it was. Was it their sister? I think it was their sister, was posting like photos of their child. And this person was saying that like the way they were doing it was like getting excited, like making the kids pose and posting it as if like they're getting like this dopamine rush from it, right? Like you want to show off, like these are my kids, and you're getting that, like that's what social media does. That's what the internet does to you. That's what all of this advertising shit does. Like the way that our phones are designed, the way that these apps and programs are designed is to keep us on them for as long as possible. If you guys haven't seen The Social Dilemma, you absolutely have to watch it. I can't remember which platform it's on, but it's terrifying. But like I was saying, I don't think that it's like this intentionally damaging or evil thing that like a parent is doing. I think it's most of the time it comes from some sort of like pride that you want to share. You just want to share. And then, you know, you post a photo of your kids and you get a bunch of likes and comments from like friends who are like, oh my God, they're so cute, blah, 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 whatever. And then you're just like, oh, this is like fun. Like, this is nice. I'm getting this attention. My kids are getting this attention. And that's pretty much how social media works, is to basically like reward you for putting out content. So you want to put out more and more and more. And so this person was saying like, it comes off as if this mother is like using her kids to get attention. Maybe that's not, I mean, maybe that is her motivation. Maybe it's not. Maybe she just doesn't realize that she's addicted to that dopamine hit of that notification of someone saying like, oh my God, your daughter's so beautiful, or whatever the fuck. I haven't even had that much coffee today. I'm talking a mile a minute. Yeah, I mean, going back to like what I said earlier, it's just it's ignorant for us to think that we have a handle on these things, that we know how they're affecting us. It's so new. The internet and social media and all of this stuff is so new. We're basically like trying to figure it out as it's evolving so quickly, and we just have to navigate with caution. I think that's the most important thing. And hopefully this video helps, or like this conversation helps some people like recognize something that they haven't, like that mother who, you know, was posting images of her child. You got to just remember that there are crazy people out there. There are predators, there are creeps. It's so easy to find a profile. Like sometimes if you just have enough on Facebook, if you have like enough friends in common, you can view certain photos, even though you're not friends with a person, you know? Oh, that was another thing, really quick. Somebody else commented saying that they're required by the parents of this child, the child being their niece, this person's niece, they're not allowed to post images of this girl until she's 16. And they were basically saying, like, do you think that this is like too much? Like, do you think you can be overprotective when it comes to this kind of thing? Now, obviously, my first response was, you know, ultimately it's a parent's decision. So, and you have to like abide by their wishes, I guess. But honestly, the more I thought about it, like, I think that's so reasonable, you know, because you're allowing, first of all, you're allowing that child to like grow up. They're not even going to be an adult, but at least they're old enough to decide like whether or not they want to put certain things out there. Now, obviously, I don't know all of the details of the situation, but I don't think that that's overprotective at all. It probably seems like it to the kid because their parent, I mean, I don't know, again, I don't know if like this kid has her own like private Instagram or whatever. But I don't think that it's irrational or overprotective of parents these days, considering just the effects of the internet and social media on like young people. Yeah. It's a big one, man. It's a big one. It's a lot of topics. So again, I mean, like, it's a huge topic. So there's just like, there's so much to cover. I focused more on like in my previous video, I focused more on the fact that like parents weren't really giving their children the choice whether or not they want to live on the internet, you know? And I think that that's just like something that should be done is, you know, not forcing your kids into this like public life from birth. That's what I focused on. It was like, you know, give your kids the choice once they reach like, you know, I don't know, when they're old enough to make the decision for themselves, whether or not they want to put stuff out there. And a lot of you guys obviously brought up, you know, the dangers of the internet. And I remember when I was growing up and it was like MySpace and chat rooms and shit like AIM and shit like that. It was more like, oh, a creep would like reach out to you and you guys might, like a kid might be dumb enough, sounds rude, but like be dumb enough to be like, I'm gonna meet up with this person. Now it's like if this predator has hacker skills, they can find you. Like they know where you are. They could go to your school. If you're fucking taking pictures of yourself on Snapchat, or I mean, I guess Snapchat's dead, but TikTok, and tagging your location, you know what I mean? Something to think about. Great talk.